Fund here and in Israel. I want to thank Josh and Leslie so much for putting this opportunity together for us, and to thank Yael and Yaakov. We are very much looking forward to hearing from you. And I also want to welcome Nina Levitt, the chair of our Israel committee, for everything that you do as well. It's just wonderful to be able to gather. I'm going to introduce Josh, if that's okay, and then hand it over to him for the rest of our call. For those of you who've not had the opportunity to meet Josh, you're in for a treat today to hear from him a little bit. He has been in our community since July of 2019, when he became the West Florida director of Jewish National Fund in our area. He serves the community from Sarasota all the way down to Naples, though he is originally from Philadelphia. Before coming to us, he worked for 6 years for CAMERA, the Committee for Accuracy and Fairness in Middle Eastern Reporting. He is a relatively recent graduate of the Hornstein Professional Leadership Program at Brandeis University, where he received a Master's of Arts and an MBA. He also studied at Boston University for his undergraduate degree and spent time at the Alexander Moose High School in Israel as well. He is married to Lauren, who is equally accomplished and delightful. And since coming to our community, he has devoted his skills, his experience, his dedication to Israel to advance the cause and the mission of Jewish National Fund. And he's just been an incredible asset to our community. And we're so grateful to have him and everything that he does. And I am glad to let him take over from here. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you, Rabbi, and it's been a pleasure to be in Sarasota for this time being, and it's also been one of the better parts of it is to see what the community is like and all the wonderful congregations here, and Temple Emanu-El is such an incredible example of that, and particularly as well to be spreading such joy and hope in a troubling time such as we're in, particularly making the front page of the newspaper and sending cards to those who are needing a hope of inspiration from the children. And so it really is, we call that a Kiddush Hashem, making God's name great throughout the world and for the Jewish people. And so Emanu-El's been so strong for that, and I'm so happy to be collaborating for efforts for that. So it's been great to see that, and to thank you, Rabbi, and the Israel Committee, and for everyone for being here with us this morning. So I'm going to try something over Zoom. This will be a show of hands, a little interactive part. Who here grew up with one of these in your house, a blue box for Jewish National Fund, or had a grandparent that had one? Yeah, so lots of hands. I love that. And this is actually the one that was in my house as well with me. And so I have it with me here. And who has planted a tree on a trip to Israel? Well, so many hands. It's wonderful to see. Or has received a tree certificate or given one. Oh, and I'm seeing the boxes themselves, very handy. Love that. Amazing. So a lot of hands. So it goes without saying that in the community here and in the world, I should say, that Jewish National Fund has been dedicated since 1901 to empowering the Jewish community around the world to build this land of Israel. And it was through those trees and through those boxes that the Zionist dream came to be a reality. And that laid the foundation to what the work that we are able to do today to continue to help the land of Israel and the people of Israel. And very importantly, moving with that foundation, we have been able to go to a wide range. You should see on your screen now just a sample. Each one of these different project areas could be an hour-long lecture in and of itself, but just to cover very quickly: community building is ensuring that the entire land, the north and the south of Israel, is populated and thriving, disabilities and special needs, that there is no Israeli left behind, and that all Israelis of all needs and abilities are given a chance to succeed. Research development so that Israel can continue to be a light unto the nations and work together with neighboring countries, with countries around the world to bring forth breakthroughs in technology that can help everybody. Education and advocacy, and this goes from curriculum with elementary school through to high school with the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, the only English-speaking study abroad program in Israel with a Zionist education, which, as Rabbi referenced, I am a proud alum myself as well, and continuing on through the university as well to bring people of all faiths to Israel, and the professors as well. Water solutions, we know how important it is for that region, and to help with desalination efforts, to recycle water, so many projects like that. Heritage site preservation, to make sure that the history of Israel, and the modern state of Israel in particular, is preserved, and JNF helps to run many of those different sites from pre-state all the way through to modern times. And finally, as we referenced before, forestry and green innovations, and how important it is to maintain the land. And then one of the services that falls under that umbrella is fire and rescue, and that's what we'll be hearing about today. And to start us with that conversation that we'll be having, I'm very pleased to introduce our affiliates director. She actually oversees all of the over 30 affiliates that JNF works with on the ground in Israel to make sure that we are able to carry out our mission. So Yael Levontin is that affiliate director. So she received her master's from Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and she joined the JNF family back in 2010 as the firefighters liaison. And now, nearly 11 years later, she is the affiliates coordinator for all of those different groups, as I said. She lives in Beit Shemesh with her husband and 5 children. She has grown in JNF, loves everything JNF, and we're very lucky to have her give us a report directly from Israel, a little bit how she got there, and then tell us now as well what it's like in the last short time as well. So please, Yael, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to see, well, we got like 47 participants here this evening. Well, evening for us, I guess morning for you guys. Rabbi, thank you for bringing everybody here together today. I was speaking with the Rabbi, I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes, just yesterday, and I said that I am just so honored to be able to be here with my friend Yaakov, that you're going to hear in a little bit, to talk to you guys, that you take time out of your day to listen to us. It's truly incredible. So thank you so much for that. So like Josh says, JNF has been my home for the past 11 years. I've grown and developed into, different positions throughout the years. And I just love the work that we do here and the people that I work with. So it's another family for me. And I don't just say that as a hashtag for anything, but it's really, truly how I feel. As Josh says, I live in Beit Shemesh. I have 5 boys. You missed that part, all 5 boys. And having them home with me for the past, today is day 42 that we've been self-contained in our home. My husband as well has been with us. So I have 6 boys all around me at all times. And it's been difficult, but Israel is, the moment that COVID-19 kind of broke out in Israel, unlike different countries, we started using very strict guidelines in hopes of flattening the curve and keeping the numbers down. And I think a lot could be said about different kind of policies and what people can do and the economics, and that's a whole nother conversation. But Israel really implemented very strong actions very quickly, and they're very prohibiting. So everything is closed. There's nowhere to go. Once a day, we go out with my kids and my husband. We go for a walk around the block. So first we were only allowed to go 100 meters, which is basically up and down the street. So when I would do my run, because I have to get out of the house, I would just go around and around and around my block, and it was the most boring 8 kilometers I've ever done in my life, but there was no other option because the police were out there and they were giving, you know, reports for whoever was going farther than what they were allowed. They're taking this very, very seriously. And I think just a couple days ago, they moved it from 100 kilometers, you're allowed to go till 500 kilometers, which again is not very far. And you can go to the supermarkets and to get medicine. So that's basically where Israel is right now, and they're trying to decide if they want to open up a few more of the businesses, especially the small businesses that have been hit horribly throughout the past, 2 months, when no one's allowed to go out and do shopping, but you still have to pay taxes and rent and whatever. I assume just like it is in the US. Just some numbers in Israel. Right before I got on this line, I checked. I mean, it's always changing. Approximately 14,500 people are sick, but only 136 are in really bad condition. Under 200 people who have died from COVID-19 in Israel. I mean, these are horrible numbers for anything, but compared to different countries, I think that Israel and their policy have been able to hopefully, like we said, flatten the curve, if not push it down completely. So that's basically what's going on here. We're juggling homeschooling, working full-time, and of course, a lot of people have been laid off from their jobs. They call it a chalat in Israel, which is kind of like a paid vacation without the social benefits that you get in Israel anyway, anywhere between a month to 3 months before you start taking unemployment. In one day, we had over 1 million people in Israel apply to get this money. So I can even tell you that my own husband, I mean, he was working in high tech, working since, high school, had never been a day home. And then all of a sudden COVID-19 hits and they're like, listen, dude, you can't travel anywhere. You can't go anywhere. We're putting you on chalat. You're getting, the unpaid leave, vacation, whatever it is. And we'll talk again in 3 months. So we're up to 26% unemployment in Israel, which is a really big problem. It affects almost everybody that I know. It's affecting in one way or another. But this is positivity. We're looking forward and we're saying this too shall pass. This isn't going to be forever. And we're just going to come out stronger and more fierce, the day after. So that's basically what's going on here in Israel. And a little bit later on, Yaakov, who's my amazing firefighter from Herzliya, he's going to tell us how fire and rescue are dealing with COVID-19, but that's going to be a little bit later on the call, something to look forward to. So what else, Josh? What do we want to talk about today?
First of all, thank you for the report from the ground. I think, folks are really eager to hear, you read so much in the headlines, but to have a face behind it and hear how, just one family is coping and dealing. And, but like you said, that, Gamze Yavor, this too will pass. And there are incredible programs that are still going on and must go on. So wanted to turn to that and fire and rescue. So tell us a little bit about the history of fire and rescue and how the partnership came that for Jewish National Fund together.
So the relationship between the organizations, why it's so interesting actually, because it's so unique, and I'll explain how we got to here. So I'm actually going to take you back a couple of years. It's not going to be very long, but to give you a little bit of history and taste of how this relationship even began and the impact that it's had over the years. So the relationship between the organizations, and we're talking about the Fire and Rescue Authority here in Israel and Jewish National Fund USA, actually started back in 2006 after the Second Lebanon War, where the then Commissioner Shimon Ramach created an organization that was called Friends of Israel Firefighters. And the whole purpose of that organization was to help Israel purchase equipment and trucks that were really desperately needed. So over the years, that organization closed down, and JNF was a partner to begin with Friends of Israel firefighters as their main partner in fundraising efforts in the US. So after FIF closed down, Jewish National Fund decided to continue supporting the Fire and Rescue Authority in Israel directly, which usually never happens. The way that we work here in Israel is that we have these amazing, incredible organizations, over 30 of them. Those are called our affiliates. And Jewish National Fund works through them, meaning we're not coming and saying we know how to do Aliyah better than someone else. We work through Nefesh B'Nefesh. So that's always been the way that JNF operates here in Israel. So all of a sudden for JNF to say, okay, we don't have that organization in the middle, but we are going to continue helping, means that something really important has changed. Something happened, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about. So I want to take you back now again to 2010, that was our turning point in the relationship between Fire and Rescue and Jewish National Fund USA. Back in 2010, we had the Mount Carmel forest fire. In Israel, it's called Ason HaKarmel, the Carmel disaster. I don't know if any of you guys remember it. It was so long ago, but it was a deadly forest fire that started in Mount Carmel in the north of Israel, which is right outside of Haifa. The fire claimed 44 lives, making it the deadliest in Israel history, really. This included 36 Israel prison service, 36 Israeli prison service members. Most of them were new recruits, as well as 3 senior police officers. Among them was the chief of Haifa's police, Commander Ahuva Tomer, and 3 firefighters, Dani Chayat, Uri Samindayev, and our 16-year-old volunteer firefighter that they just didn't know that he was that young and that he was a child, Ad Riven. The fire lasted for 82 hours, just to put things into proportion. Basically what happened was when the fire started on December 2nd, and it doesn't matter how it started, I mean, there's been so many articles about it, the Damun prison, which is right there by Haifa, the fire was all around it, and they called in for reinforcements in order to evacuate the prisoners there. The bus carrying the Israeli prison service cadets, they came to assist, but were caught in the fire on the way. The initial investigation showed that a tree had fallen down on the road, and the road is very narrow, and it trapped the bus basically in a fireball. After the vehicle caught fire, the driver was injured and he lost control. And while performing a U-turn on the narrow road, it got caught and it couldn't move anymore. The cadets tried to escape from the bus. The back door wouldn't open because of the extreme heat that was surrounding the bus. Eventually they were able to break through. Some cadets were able to get out. Unfortunately, the moment that they got out, there was fire all around them. And only an officer and 2 cadets were able to escape by being picked up by a passing motorist, who then drove them off to safety. Most of those IPS officers and cadets had been in their 20s and 30s. And that incident is the country's deadliest single peacetime event involving security forces. So that was back in 2010. After that fire, Jewish National Fund USA decided that it had to become a priority for us to equip the firefighters with the absolute best equipment, the best trucks, the best stations anywhere in the entire world. We used to say way back then that Israel had 2 sons. They had the favorite son, which was the IDF, which got all the budgets and it got the money and got the publicity, and it had the big mega gala events in the US. And then when they had the forgotten son, which was Fire and Rescue Authority. And they pretty much worked on their own. What happened then is that each city was responsible for its own fire and rescue command. So they weren't speaking with each other. So any city that had money, I would say even like Tel Aviv or Herzliya or the center of Israel, they had good equipment, they had better trucks. But the moment that you would go to the poorer cities, if you would go up north or down south, where Jewish National Fund is really involved in, till today it's our main focus, you would see that they would have almost nothing. They would have very bad equipment, and they would have trucks that were over 30 years old on the road. And after 2010, the country changed all of that. They came together, the country itself, the commissioner, and he says, we are going to make one authority that's going to encompass everybody, all of the firefighters all over Israel from the north to the south under the Ministry of Internal Defense. So now the authority was really one authority with a budget from the government. And although it's not enough, it was a much needed change. Now, since the authority became part of the government, one can't just go and donate to the government. I mean, it's not like you can go now to the IDF and say, okay, I would like to donate a truck, a tank. It doesn't happen. One can't really do that without a lot of legal contracts put in place. So for the past couple of years, one of the biggest parts of my job, at least for this affiliate, was to make sure that I had all the legal contracts put in place to make sure that this relationship with Jewish National Fund and the Fire and Rescue Authority can continue, and that we can continue buying fire trucks, and that we can continue buying fire stations. And I'm very happy to say that after a very long time, we were able to just close another contract for another 5 years. So what that really means at the end of the day is that out of all the organizations in the world, out of everyone, only Jewish National Fund USA is legally allowed to donate to fire and rescue in Israel. So when you see other organizations that might have their heart in the good place and they're fundraising for the big fires, when you see them over the summers or whatever it is, truthfully, at the end of the day, if they don't have a contract signed with the Israeli government, they will not be able to purchase any of the stuff that they promised that they were going to purchase. So that's the history of how we started working together and why it was so important for JNF to take the stand and say, you know what, we're here, we are building Israel, we want people to go up north, we want people to come down south, we have the $1 billion roadmap vision. There's no vision without security. I mean, that's any family that wants to move anywhere in Israel. You know, one of the things that you're going to check off is, do I have security? And fire and rescue is a very big aspect in Israel, especially up north and down south. Not only do our firefighters go out to fires and rescues like you would have in the US, but you can add all the rest of the things that are unique to Israel, like down south in the Gaza envelope, where we had, you know, the balloons coming in from Gaza, or we have up north, we have the Hezbollah. I mean, there's so many other things that happen. So when all of those rockets fall on Israel, our firefighters aren't hiding. They are going out to the scene. And Russell Robinson, our fearless leader in Jewish National Fund, he's the CEO of JNF-USA, he saw this. He had that vision way back in 2010 saying, guys, this isn't going to happen if we don't help, if we don't make a change. And he's incredible. He sees things that people just can't see, the bigger picture. And when he heard that the trucks that our firefighters were using were over 30 years old, and our firefighters would look at us and they would say, gosh, it's easier to run to the fire than to go in these trucks that are 30, 40 years old, even with your foot down on the accelerator and trying to get to the fire. They're like, this was so depressing, because you would see like these little mini cars like zooming past them. And they said, you know, it's easier for us to just get out and run. And when Russell heard this, he's like, no, this relationship is too strong, too important to just, you know, take a step away because Friends of Israel firefighters, you know, closed down as an organization. We are going to continue, we're going to pick it up, and we're going to move forward with it. And the things that we've been able to do through this relationship have been mind-blowing and just have made such a difference here in Israel.
Thank you for that fascinating background and to bring to light how this came forward. If you could illuminate some of the numbers behind what's been happening, if that's the background, bring us into the present a little bit and to say, you know, what this relationship has been able to do to help Israel.
Oh my gosh, definitely. So way back then, they had trucks that were 30 or 40 years old, and that's what they were going on. through JNF, through, from 2010, we've done over 200 fire trucks around Israel. Brand new, the state-of-the-art fire trucks, which is absolutely incredible. You will not find a truck that's 30 or 40 years old anymore on the scene in Israel. They kind of like tick them off to the museum and they just drop them there. We have done, I can't give you an exact number because it's in the millions, and I'm not even joking. We actually gave a check of $1 million for equipment just a couple of years ago. So anytime the firefighters needed new equipment, they would send me an email. They'd be like, yeah, we just had these big fires over the summer. We just had, the Gaza envelope, and there was a lot of firefighters going down south, and we need new equipment. How can you help us? And because we have this fund that we can just pull the monies out, we're like, well, whatever you need, you buy it, you let us know, and we transfer the money. Now, obviously, I have to stress that everything is put in our legal contracts. The JNF is never, ever the only one paying for any equipment or truck. So when I say that JNF helped purchase 200 trucks, it's because on every dollar that JNF gave, the Israeli government was like, oh, well, if you're going to give $1, we're going to give $2. And that way a donation was able to actually be like triple the amount by purchasing the fire trucks. So we would pay 1/3 and they would pay 2/3, and then the truck would be able to go on the ground. We build fire stations. No joke, the most beautiful fire stations I've ever seen around Israel. We have them in Usafia, which is up north. We have one in Mitzpe Ramon. We have one in Yerucham. We have one in Ma'alot, and we helped build the fire station in Akko. So that is 5 stations, big, beautiful stations. And anyone that walks in is like blown away, because before we built it, I'll just give you an example. In Mitzpe Ramon, it was a hut. The firefighter in Mitzpe Ramon literally was working out of a hut. It was like there were trees growing out from the top. The pictures of before and after are crazy. And then all of a sudden they have this beautiful fire station where they can put their trucks in there, and they can close it off at night, and there's a kitchen, and dear Lord, there's bathrooms and showers and bedrooms and televisions for when they're off, because our firefighters, they work 24 on and then 48 off. But when they're on that 24 hours, they're on that 24 hours. And the latest commissioner also made it very clear that he wants them in a physical level, compared to, I guess, the firefighters in the US and in Europe. They had to like raise their fitness levels. So we made sure that in all of these new stations, they also had gyms that were put in place. So when they're not out on calls, they can be working on their health and getting stronger and doing what they're supposed to do in order to do their job at the best ability possible, and still to be able to go home to their family and friends at the end of the day.
So with the brand new stations, with the brand new trucks, and with this relationship now steady and certified and ready to move forward, what's next? What are the next steps that both the Fire and Rescue and that JNF-USA are working together towards now with that foundation that's really set?
Okay, so now that we have that foundation, and we would sit with the commissioner, Dadi Simchi. Russell Robinson was here last, and he had a meeting with him at the Fire and Rescue School in Rishon LeZion, and we asked him, we said, what's the legacy you want to leave behind? What's your next step? Because a commissioner only comes in, I think, between 4 to 5 years. It's a political position, and then they move on. So Dadi Simchi looked at Russell Robinson, and he said, in America, you guys have this incredible volunteer firefighter system put in place. And I'm Israeli, so I didn't know what he was talking about. I mean, I was born and raised here, so I always knew that there were firefighters, right? That's just what there was. So Russell started to explain to me, actually, and he said, there's cities, and inside the cities, you have the professional firefighters, obviously, but then you have this entire manpower of volunteers that are trained professionally by the firefighters, and they go out to fires, especially in the remote areas. So that's what we want to focus on moving forward. Before COVID-19 happened, that was going to be our big plan for 2020, to roll it out and say, guys, we are going to be purchasing new vehicles, not the large red fire trucks that we usually purchase for the firefighters, excuse me, but a smaller vehicle that would be easier to maneuver. Also smaller fire stations so that the volunteers would have someplace to sit, someplace to go to, and obviously be on call, and kind of build that entire infrastructure for them, because it's just not existing here in Israel in the same way that they have in the US. And not only would it help the firefighters, because it would take off a little bit, you know, from their plate, because they're like, Yaakov's going to talk about it soon. There's not that many firefighters here in Israel. And especially when we're talking about the south and the north of Israel, which is, I know it's funny to say it's very far, because, you know, compared to Florida, even, that between one city to the next could be hours and hours. And in Israel, you could probably cut it from north to south in 6 hours. But when you have a station that's in Haifa and it needs to get all the way up to Shlomi, and the roads are very narrow and small and it's hard to get there, then having volunteer firefighters already on the scene waiting for the professional firefighters to come, or at least to give the first response, to kind of contain what they can, because they will be trained. This is not just, oh, I woke up today and I decided to be a volunteer firefighter. It doesn't work that way. It would help amazingly. And more than that, it's going to be a game changer here in Israel. And then that's kind of what our commissioner wants us to focus on moving forward now. So that was going to be our next step in regards to fire and rescue in 2020. Hopefully we're still going to get there. We're going to do it. It's just going to take a little bit more time. We'll get through this bump of COVID-19, and then we're going to go back on plan to just keep moving forward and changing everything in Israel when it comes to fire and rescue through all of these amazing supporters. I don't know if I told you, but I actually just remembered that in Sarasota, the donations that came in from Sarasota from 2015 till today was close to $500,000 from people that are living in that region, which is, it's so generous and just so incredible that people that are living in Sarasota would be doing this for our Israel Fire and Rescue Authority. So kudos to all of you guys from 2015 till today. But yeah, it's just, that's our step forward. That's what we want to focus on, is the volunteer unit.
Without further ado, let's turn it over, Yael, and introduce Yaakov and have him tell us a little bit about his background and what he's like today.
Do you want me to introduce him?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so Yaakov happened to have been, we've known each other for years, but we didn't know that we knew, like we knew of each other. We kind of like were in the same circles growing up back in Jerusalem. And then a couple years ago, and we kind of lost touch because he's younger than me, and you know, he was my cousin's younger friend. And then a couple years ago, I think we were walking around the firefighter commissioner's office, and he's like, Yael, and I was like, remind me your name? And he's like, it's Yaakov from Jerusalem. And I was like, of course it's Yaakov from Jerusalem. And then of course, oh, I remember the Hausers and the connections that were made. And then it was as if, you know, no days had passed between when we lost touch in the middle. Yaakov is amazing. You're going to hear from him. You're all going to fall in love with him. Yaakov is actually from New Jersey, and he made Aliyah with his family. And he's a firefighter in Herzliya. He is married, and he has 2 beautiful little boys. And he's just a really good person. So I was, when Josh came to me and he's like, well, you know, we want to talk to the Sarasota community, and we'd really like you to bring somebody else on the line as well. And I was like, oh, it's Yaakov. There was no even question in my mind. And once he starts speaking, you guys are going to understand why anyone who meets him falls in love with him. He's just a wonderful person. So Yaakov, my firefighter, go ahead, tell us your story. You have to unmute yourself.
Good idea. Now can you all hear me? Good to go. There we go. All right. Well, hi everybody. My name is Yaakov Gutman. I'm originally from New Jersey. I made Aliyah in 2006 on my own. I came here as a Chayil Boded, went to the army, And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background of myself. I grew up, again, in Teaneck. I grew up in a semi-religious family. My family was extreme Orthodox. I grew up regular Orthodox. I personally wasn't so into religion as growing up. And then when I came to Israel, I decided to come to Israel to learn for the year. And when I did so, I started falling in love more with the country. I already had a big history with the country. My grandfather, may he rest in peace, was part of the Haganah, the original army. And I grew up with his stories of what he did in Israel and everything else. And I always wanted to be part of the military, and I wanted to see what that was about. And so I said, okay, you want to know what? I had 3 friends, very close friends growing up. They actually all went to the American military. I have 2 friends who are Green Berets, and I have another friend who's a Navy SEAL. And I decided, like, okay, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go to the Israeli military. I served for 2.5 years there. I was a scout sniper in a reconnaissance unit. Afterwards, I served in other disciplines, as well as a sergeant commander and so on. After doing so, I finished my service. I was in the reserve unit for a long time, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I was in security. I worked in different places. I don't know if you guys know, there's a place that the government works in the old city of Jerusalem in the Arab Quarter. I worked in the security there. And again, trying to really find myself and see what I wanted to do. At the time, unfortunately, I got hurt. I had to go back to America to go get surgery. I mean, I didn't have to go to America, but I decided, I still had my insurance. So I said, you know what, it's better if I do it in America. I had a really good orthopedist and so on and so forth. I went to America, got my small knee surgery that I needed. And I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And my mom said, look, you were an EMT in high school. You were a medic in high school. Why don't you go be a medic for a little bit, maybe a firefighter, something along those lines. You have that skill, that game for it. Look, you at least be doing something positive with your time. Great idea. Okay. I put in my papers to join the FDNY. I graduated 3rd in my class, and I worked on 110th and 2nd Avenue in Harlem. It was there that I really found that I wanted to be a firefighter. It was a wonderful, wonderful, crazy time that I did for 2 years. And during that time, I decided that, okay, you want to know what? This is what I want to do for my life. Thank you very much, FDNY. I'm going back to Israel. So I told my chief, I said, look, I'm putting in my papers. I'm going back to Israel. He goes, Gutman, what's wrong with you? You got a great job here. You're going to move up forward. You're going to be a lieutenant. You're going to this, You're going to make squad. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. I said, yeah, I know I'm going to love it, but I'm going to love it there. And I explained to him, Zionism. I explained to him a little bit about why it's so important to me. And, as firefighters, I don't know who here knows a firefighter or who's been in touch with, but the firefighter mentality anywhere in the world is 1, play pranks. 2, you got to have thick skin because they're going to rough you up in every way possible. So my going away party was, there's a rabbi on the line, so I don't want to, say anything inappropriate. But we had a great party, had a wonderful time. We said our goodbyes, and I came back to Israel. Once back in Israel, I was, it took me a while to actually get into the fire department. It was a very, very long stretch because back in the day, getting into the fire department here was through kombinot. Kombinot means connections. It really was a very, very brotherhood type of system. And this was, again, before they really were starting established. It was all between municipalities. So every city, Jerusalem had their own, Tel Aviv had their own, Haifa had their own, Beersheba, so on and so forth. And you had to go through the municipality to really get to it. It wasn't a national service. Again, until the Asona Carmel came, that Yael spoke about before. And then they finally developed a national service. They brought all of these municipalities together and created the National Fire Service. Anyways, after breaking down the door for 4.5 years, I finally got in. I am the first American Ole to go through the fire department here in Israel. I am the first person to graduate FDNY and to graduate the Israeli Fire Department. I currently serve, as Yael said, in Herzliya. I'm hazmat specialized. I have my certifications in hazmat specialties as well as rescue. I'm also cross-trained as a medic. I will be hopefully soon joining we have a special motorcycle unit that we're developing, and I will hopefully be joining that very soon. And for the most part, loving my job. Right now, a big thing that I'm sure that everyone's on their mind is COVID-19. And if it's okay, I'll speak a little bit about that, how the fire department's dealing with it, how me personally dealing with it with my own family, and so on. So I'll start from a personal level and work out. In our house, we live in an apartment, nothing fancy. We got the bedrooms, the bathroom, the normal kit and caboodle. So there's nowheres to run, no gardens to run out, no places to run away. I got 2 little kids. My oldest is 3 years old, and my second son is about 6-7 months years old. And they're both adorable and great, but they will drive you crazy. And they're wonderful kids, and we have the best time in the world, but it's hard. It really is. My wife, thank God, is a graphic designer. And because of that position, she still holds her job, now. So we're both working full time during this pandemic. And it's intense. I won't say anything. There are people who are in much worse cases than me. I have friends that their businesses are suffering left and right. And it's a really sad story. It's very, very hard. And I know in America, my mom still lives in America. My brother is actually a handyman in America in the States. And he's suffering. They're taking it really hard. People are losing jobs and losing, going on unemployment and everything else. So I look at my situation and I just kind of, come on, man, keep it quiet. You got a job, you got a place, you're doing good. So the kids drive you nuts. So, deal with it. So like Yael, I started doing the, 100 meter radius of running around my house. And I'm a little bit bigger than Yael. So it was shorter time for me running around in circles. So it drove me just a tad bit bigger. It's like, a little boom, but nothing big, and it drove us crazy. And, I started being more creative with how to work out and to keep myself just sane for the most part. And we've been dealing with it. My wife goes for workouts in the morning. I go for it in the evening. I try to go during the day. I do workouts with my kids. And it's actually been a wonderful, wonderful learning experience for myself, because I've now developed an even stronger relationship with my boys. And it's great. I taught them how to build a table. We built a bench. We built a chair, building them a swing set that they're all helping with. I wouldn't go on it, especially the one that John Built. He's only 3. So yeah, you got to be careful, but he'll be a good builder when he gets older. We'll make sure. But, it's been a wonderful experience when you look at it, the cup half full. And I think it's a very important thing with all of the trials and tribulations that I've gone through in my life. It's really taking me to do that, to start looking at the cup half full. And me and my wife, we try our best, as I say. We do what we do. On a firefighting level, we started doing, having specific trucks do, going out to certain areas to do, to clean the areas. It's called.
What was it called?
What?
Yeah, we both forgot the word. Disinfecting.
Disinfecting. By the way, I wrote it down. I'm not joking. Disinfecting right there.
Both of us were like, what's that word in English? It happens when you're Israeli. You kind of get a mishmash.
Oh, forget about that. It's not even Israeli. I'm dyslexic. I mean, I just read it backwards, instead of forward. So either way, I'm messed over. So we have a truck that we do. It's called chitui in Hebrew. It's disinfecting. So what we do is if you look at, there's a picture somewheres here of one of the trucks. Somebody actually put it up on their screen, and that's the exact truck. I think Esther.
I don't know who Esther iPad is, but
Esther
what
iPad,
she has here is a mini pumper. It's one of the first fire trucks that JNF had ever purchased. It's like 15 years old. I don't know who Esther is, Rabbi. Maybe you could figure that one out, but that's what the truck looks like if anyone can see it.
I think that's Esther Rose, who's board member for us and also in the Israel committee at Emanu-El. And that's exactly what it is. That's wonderful to see.
All right. Well, Esther, way to go. That came in perfect timing for me. So now I can explain to you all of what the trucks that we use. So we actually use that exact truck to go out to hospitals, to large areas, if a park, if there's an outbreak, if MADA, Magen David Adom, the volunteer ambulance service, volunteer ambulance service here in Israel, they call us out to help with any, mass casualty. We're on the front lines of, of door to door. We go, I'll give you an example. My last shift, which was 2 days ago, we got a call of a woman who fell in her apartment, and MADA couldn't get in and the police couldn't get in. So they call us to break down the door or figure out how to get in. As a sergeant in the fire department here, I have 2 guys under my command. So I told them to wait in the truck. I'm going to go up and go see what's going on. I went in, I saw that I can, we try to, you obviously make sure that you try to save a person. The next thing is try to make sure that you try to cause at least, the minimal damage that you can to their life space and to their, to their home. So I said, okay, it's a little bit more dangerous. I'm going to go through the roof. So I went through the roof to a window, climbed into the window. By the way, for some of you that don't know me, none of you do. So I'm 6'2", about 220. So I'm not the smallest guy to fit through a window. So it was a little bit interesting getting in. And I'm sure people were looking at, this guy's going through the window and the roof. Should we call the police? Thank God the police were there. So we all were good. And I climbed through. And as I was climbing through, I quickly remembered, oh man, we didn't even ask if there's COVID-19 in the house or if there's in the building. We all forgot, because we were just trying to get there as fast as we could. And I just screamed through the window to the woman, oh, by the way, is there COVID-19 here? And she goes, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I go, are you sure? And there was a big pause. And by the way, right now I'm kind of hanging half out the window, half in the apartment. And I'm kind of thinking like, all right, if she's got the virus, well, I'm just going in, forget about this, because, this is just ridiculous. And as she's thinking about it, I just walked in, popped the door open, helped the ambulance service, treat her for what she needed to, and then we helped her go down. And these are our day-to-day, calls. Some people know that there is, some people don't know. The fire department, again, we're taking the best, steps to make sure that we don't get infected, that we stay safe, that we keep ourselves safe. But again, the most important thing for us is really getting, the civilians, the population, you guys in a sense at home, really making sure that you guys stay the safest and the healthiest that you can be. We don't, we 3 shifts ago, we got a fire and, COVID-19 viruses, this, that, I don't think anybody thought for a second about it. It didn't even pop in our heads. It's just get in, get the people out, get them home, do the best we can, use the equipment to the best advantage that you can, and come home. And that's, that's what we do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the whole story.
Yael's crying.
Yeah.
I have been working with fire and rescue for 11 years, and I can tell you guys that each and every firefighter, I'm not talking about, the top ranks, about the actual firefighters, anyone that I have met has the best heart, and they run into danger and into fire and into COVID-19 and into the rockets while all of us are running the opposite way. So these guys are amazing, each and every one of them. They just have a very special place in my heart, even though I love all of our affiliates. Sometimes fire and rescue has just a little bit more of a special place there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
I want to get a chance.
Say,
oh, go ahead, Yaakov.
Psychology, Yael just said, people run away. There was actually an interesting a study done on firefighters, and it was one of the things of like, people said like, what's wrong with us? If you think about it, there's something actually wrong with firefighters, because we see danger and we go that way, and everybody's running this way, and we're all just stubborn and sometimes ridiculous, and we say, no, it's okay, I'm gonna go that way and I'll be all right. And that's really what firefighters are. We're just you got to go, you got to get in, you got to get the person, no questions, no matter who it is, what it is, and how it is.
So Josh, I have a question here that came privately to me on the group chat. I won't say the person who asked it because I don't know if that was meant to be private or not, but they asked me, are you wearing special equipment, face masks, etc. because of COVID-19? So I will tell you that in Israel, any child over 6 years old has to wear a mask when they're out on the streets. When I personally go to the supermarket, I also got my gloves on, I have my mask. Yaakov, do you guys have any specific things when you're working?
Great question. So we always are. Again, when we come into the station, when we're actually switching shifts and everything else, we do we try as best we can not to be in contact with each other. We're always, anytime we go out to a call, we're gloved up, we're masked up, and we'll always take, let's say if this is the normal procedure is level 1, we'll always take at least 1.5, if not level 2. Because again, it's A, to protect us, so we can go back to our families and not infect our families. And number 2, it's also to make sure if we do get in contact with somebody at the scene, that we're able to not transfer it to any other scene or any other person, any other civilian.
Any other questions? Josh, maybe you got some questions?
Folks can also unmute themselves. You should be able to do that. So you can ask it directly if you're if you prefer that than the chat. We can take a minute for that.
I see Esther, iPad, and also Nina picking up their hands. So.
Oh, that's a civilized way to do it. Okay. Let's
They're so
have
good.
Esther, then Nina.
I just wanted to say the mini pumper was given by the people in Sarasota to Israel in 2006. And a firefighter came from Israel and they presented it to him, and he got in and he turned on the siren, and there were not too many people who weren't in tears. We were all very moved.
I have to tell you, Esther, till today, anytime we do a dedication of a new truck here in Israel, I'm always crying. I mean, I think you guys can realize that I cry very easily, but it's anytime that they're here from a family that comes and donates a truck. We have the firefighters out doing the celebration with them. We have our crew and the team here in Israel. We're all always crying. The makeup is all over the place at the end of the day.
Yaakov, where are the trucks built, or Yael? Are they built in Israel, or are they?
That is a great question, Burnett. So no, well, yes and no is my answer to you. We get a lot of pieces of the trucks from different areas in Europe. They have to uphold a certain standard. And then we bring them in pieces, and then the factories here in Israel build the final truck with all of the equipment put together. So when a truck is ready and leaves the Hof, which is the factory up north, it goes and it's completely equipped with everything that we need for the standards of Israel. Obviously, every country, also in Israel, also in Europe, also in the US, has different standards, you know, the tenders that go out to what needs to be in the trucks. So this way, we're not importing trucks, which have a crazy amount of tax here in Israel. It's just not worth it. So we build the vehicles here in Israel.
Yeah, we have a place called Beit Alpha that takes all the trucks in and brings it in. There's something called the NFPA and there's something called the UL. The NFPA is the American standard and the UL is the European standard. Israel takes usually both those and tries to put them together to the best advantage that they can. And that's why we get our trucks. You know, we can't import trucks. I'll give you an example. We can't import trucks from Germany because Germany deals with extreme colds. And that doesn't appeal to us because we deal with extreme heat. So again, their trucks, in a sense, when they build, so they build internally into their engines certain components that can deal with cold, so that the pipes don't burst, and that way your pump systems will actually give out water during the cold. Versus us, we have to deal more with the problems of overheating as well as, let's say, sand. Especially, you know, when we have forest fires, we're out there usually, you know, in the dirt and in the muck, you know, running around and having a good time.
I think Nina had a question.
Yes, thank you.
Her hand so nicely.
Yeah,
Hi, Nina.
thank you. I actually sent it to Yaakov, but the question is about the explosive balloons coming from Gaza. What the fire, is there a special firefighting force dealing with it, and how challenging is it?
So it's a great question. There's nobody really, there's no specific force. There's no like, okay, balloons are coming, call out the balloon unit and send them in. These kites and balloons just come randomly. It's, all of a sudden you wake up, you look out the window, up, good day. And then all of a sudden you turn around, get a cup of coffee and boom, they're out there. It's the guys who are on the front lines, who are closest to Gaza and who are the, first responder units there. And then if it gets out of control, which it has, they'll call in other units from other stations. Usually the bigger stations. So you have Beersheba, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, who have the more manpower, and they'll be sending down. I actually started my service in Tel Aviv. I was there for 4 years, and then I transferred over to Herzliya. And when I was in Tel Aviv, we were called out everywhere. And so, yeah, it's not one specific unit. It's everybody. We're all brothers here. We take care of each other. No questions asked.
Thank
That was
you.
one of the biggest changes that happened really after 2010. They have a command center in Rishon LeZion. They're able to see everything. There's cameras everywhere, and everybody is interconnected. Toby, did you have a question? You have to unmute yourself, sweetie. Josh, maybe.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I got you, Toby. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I know that women serve with men in the IDF. Are there many female firefighters?
There are. I think we got 10, right, Yaakov?
There's actually 13 right now. There's 13 women firefighters all over. 3 are lochamot. Three are commanders. They went through the first stage of commander, the mefakdei tzvatim. And there's actually one who's right now, I know her personally because her husband was a firefighter in Tel Aviv. She's actually in the officer's course right now to become an officer, which is very rare. And I think she's one of the first, if not the first, to do it. But Israel has completely opened their doors of, you can pass the test, you can stand up to the requirements, you're in the door. In my course, we had 2 girls, unfortunately couldn't stand to the standards, and they unfortunately got dropped.
So there's nothing that women are not allowed to do.
You can do anything that the boys can do, if not better.
Hey now. Oh.
And
That's their
have
plan.
5 boys.
I got 5 boys and I'm still saying it. Yes, Israel is very open to anybody. And you know what? It's not just Jewish people who are in the firefighters here in Israel. There's a lot of Druze as well. There's Arabs, there's Christians. I mean, it's very open to anybody who can pass the test. And like Yaakov said, at the end of the day, they're all brothers. So it really doesn't matter.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Well, I'm seeing this isn't a question, but from Linda, Rabbi Lane, make sure you include a visit to the new firehouse on the Temple's next trip to Israel. We would.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see all of you guys in person. Hopefully by then I'd be able to give you guys hugs as well. Going around hugging all of you, I'll be like, hugs.
We would love it.
Amen.
We're actually
Amen.
just
Amen.
we're just starting to plan our next congregational trip. We were there, this past summer, just about 10 months ago. So we will definitely put that on the list. Thank you. And we were in Yerucham also. A big group of us was in Yerucham. I wish we had known we would have come by.
Yerucham was just this year, I believe, that we finished. So don't worry about it. There'll still be options.
Sounds like a great reason to schedule another trip.
I know.
Sounds phenomenal. You guys are always welcome. When you guys come, if Yael can work it in, you guys come to my firehouse. We'll show you around, take you everywhere, drive you wherever we can, do as best as we can.
I think we also want to meet your boys, if that's okay.
They'll be happy to.
Good.
If you want, they could even drive you on the trucks.
I would like that. I want to swing on that swing.
Real treat.
Yeah.
Good. Well, let's see. I really want to thank all of you, Yaakov and Yael and Joshua. Thank you so much for everything you've done to bring this program to us. And behind the scenes is Leslie from Jewish National Fund, who has been, making sure that your hall worked out, that everybody's, mic is working, that everyone is where they're supposed to be. So I want to thank her as well. My husband gets worried when I go to a JNF event, the way that other people's husbands get worried when their wives go to the mall, because we'll go into a program a few months ago on JNF special in uniform, and we're in the car, and I'm like, well, we should give money to that. And he's like, okay. So every time we go to something for JNF, so he's in his office right now, probably like cringing, that I'm asking this. But if people are like me and are interested in learning more and possibly making a contribution in some way, is there either Leslie or Josh, just one of you look at you, you're amazing, thank you, just a way that we can get in touch with to learn more?
How do we keep that
There you go.
information?
Let's see, it looks like it's a PowerPoint slide.
Well, Josh, why don't you send this by email to the rabbi and she can email it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Exactly. So we'll make sure to, we'll make sure that, so this is to capture it. So you have it up. I'll leave it up for the next little bit, rather than just me speaking it, but we'll definitely, Rabbi and Leslie have been keeping track of who was on the call, and for those that signed up ahead of time. So we'll hopefully capture everyone, and then probably we may even just send it out to a wider list as well. So, but at the very least, whoever's here today. So this is for Yael and for myself. So that's how you get in touch to learn more about this, about all the other programs. And I'll say real quickly as well that if you enjoy things like this, we are having almost every day a program where it's on Zoom like this, and it's Israel education from our teachers from the Alexander Muss High School. There are cooking classes, there is different celebrities, different things like that. And so there are different ways of learning more, just like we did today. And you can go to our website, and I'll include that as well. So jnf.org, and right at the top of the page it says on demand. So just like you'd be on demand at your home, just another way to stay involved and engaged and everything. And yes, we would absolutely love for the first trip to be to Israel that everyone is raring to go. And with the temple or with us, that would be what an incredible showing it would be to have people first visit.
Can't wait.
Josh, we send out, like every week, we send out an email from the temple, to our temple membership with information about the highlights of the week and programs. Do you have something similar through JNF?
Josh, you're on silent.
I already say yes. Not on a local level. Typically, we typically just do it around events as things come up. So it would be from the national level, and then if we have talks like this that are more locally focused, that's how it's set up right now.
Okay, great. So I would say for people who are on the call from Temple Emanu-El, mostly, we have your email addresses. Maybe if you are interested, let's say if you have enjoyed the talk and if you're interested in, being apprised of these other opportunities, then don't do anything. If you feel like you have enough emails in your inboxes and you don't want to receive information about the JNF event, just, give me a call or send me an email, in the next couple days. But if you're like, oh, I want to hear more, I want to be on these other calls, don't do anything. I'll share your email address if that's okay. With Josh, and make sure that you're informed. And if you don't want more emails, then let me know, and I won't send. I won't share your email. But I'm glad you have mine, because I'm interested in learning more about these other opportunities. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Josh, can we just say thank you all for tuning in to listen to me and Yaakov today? And we're just wishing you guys all a lot of health and safety, and just stay home, and hopefully, like we said, Gam ze ya'avor, this too shall pass. And we're sending you so much love from Jerusalem and Ra'anana. So lots of love from Israel.
Bye-bye.
Lots of love from
Toda
Rabah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy. Be safe.
Thank you so
You
much.
too.
It was wonderful today. It was very enlightening, and I really